They're lining up in a very different order, as the Mitsubishi Fuso grid shows us, with the two Fujitsu Fords off the front row, Warren Luff and Tony Ricciardello. Stephen Johnson, after a very frustrating opening race this weekend, has a big mission, and he could very well go on to win this one. Likewise with Greg Murphy and Jason Bright, who very much feels he should have won race 1 yesterday if it weren't for that front tyre blowout. Marcus Marshall made some good progress yesterday, 30th up to 22nd, and he's starting at the front end of the grid. John Bow made also some pretty decent progress as well. So too Paul Morris. So we'll see what those guys can do today. James Courtney went in the right direction, 21st to 16th yesterday. And Cameron McConville right in the middle of the pack, 15th in race 1. Will Davison had a solid start, considering this is the first time he's ever been at the Hidden Valley circuit. And what about Max Wilson? Just missed out on the top 10. And there, these three guys, Whincup, Dumbrell and Ingle, who had that almighty scrap yesterday for those final few positions within the top 10. And then we get back to the boys who really had a stellar day yesterday. Tander, Lowndes, Winterbottom, who held that pressure all race long. And then the Holden duo of Rick Kelly and Mark Scaife all the way at the back. That is a big workload.
Huge workload, and as we said before, Lee, even though there's a couple of spots to pass, it's so congested here for the first couple of laps, particularly into the valley, turns 4 and 5 on the opening lap or two. I fully expect that we'll see some drama in there.
The pressure is on these two guys.
Big reduction in air and track temperature, particularly track temperature because there's no direct sunlight on the road. 30 degrees air, 37 track, a lot cooler than the last couple of days.
Reverse grid race, Darwin style. Good start from Stephen Johnson, likewise Greg Murphy, but it's Warren Luff who gets the jump. And Ricciardello is struggling right in the middle of the pack. They are ducking and weaving to avoid him. There's contact in the middle of the field. It's Max Wilson and Todd Kelly. The bad luck continues for Todd, and Max Wilson is out of this one.
I think it was one of the Fujitsu cars. I think it was Ricciardello. Oh, big trouble on the exit of one.
The reverse grid mayhem continues. And that's Dean Canto for Gary Rogers Motorsport. A chaotic opening 2 corners.
One of the cars off the front row got a bad start. I think it was Tony. He was very slow on the run down to 1, and it scattered the pack, and as people ducked and dived, they tripped over each other. Safety car is going onto the circuit, so this will neutralise the race.
Not even one lap completed.
The car still off the side of the road down there at turn 1. And it's Max Wilson's WPS Ford. Disappointing for him after a terrific run yesterday. He's down in the runoff area, but he's in an awkward, dangerous position, so they'll have to remove that car, Darryl.
Yeah, Neil, quick update on Max Wilson there. The team said it's broken the steering rack in that car. I said, did it break or has he had contact? They said they're not sure who with, but Max said he had contact and the steering rack is broken in that car.
Sending wildly across the track. Here's the Zinger replay. Look to the centre of your screen further back.
Yeah, somebody hit the back of Max's car then and turned it quite violently. They were down the left-hand side of the road, right-hand side of the picture. This is on board with Craig Lowndes. That's Todd Kelly disappearing in a cloud of smoke to the right. Doesn't tell you much more of the story, but it's typical of the mid-pack chaos in a lot of races, and it's especially exaggerated if someone's made a very slow start, which seemed to have happened because you can see there that one of the Brytech cars right in the middle of the pack. There's the Team Kiwi car turned around. I think that was a DJR car. Dick Johnson Racing Ford was in strife there as well. Rocks and dirt and debris. On board here with Stephen Richards.
The mayhem's going to unfold well ahead of this. Centre of your screen. There it goes. So who was that? That was Will Davison right there.
Somebody clipped him though. Dear me. It's chaotic.
Where do you go? What do you do?
Marcus Marshall was out there in the weeds just trying to recover from all that. Here's a view from the other angle. This is the exit turn 1. So Radisic gets turned around. Why is the open question.
Morris took evasive action. Courtney went the outside. Lowndes got through unscathed. And here's Will Davison.
He came into the pit lane for some attention. His car got clipped. Todd Kelly we saw just disappearing in a cloud of smoke.
And Neil, they've got the slide hammer out in the HRT here garage, frantically working on that front left. Todd, just give us your viewpoint on what happened.
Well, a few cars seemed to get bad starts and everybody got round. There was one of the Fujitsu cars, I think. And just before the braking area, full noise into turn one, somebody just nailed me and spun me round, and I've just sort of gone completely sideways, 90 degrees, right through the braking area off the end of the track. So pretty hairy ride there for a while.
What's the state of the damage? The steering was left hand down as you came into the garage here. Do you know what's wrong?
Yeah, it got a really hard hit on the left front there. I don't know what the state of the bodywork is, but I could probably go out and live with the steering. It's not going to be too good though.
Hard luck for the two-time defending champion here.
How many hits can he take? It has been one after another every round this year. Let's go back racing. And Stephen Johnson is right in the draft of Warren Luff. Looking for an option down into turn one. Johnson goes the outside, Luff the inside, and Murphy's tucked in there as well.
Again, a surprising number of gaps between competitors at the restart. The rule states that they must stay within 5 lengths, car lengths of each other. Look at this, already a massive amount of distance between various cars.
Jason Bright, 5th in the order. He's looking for a way through as well. Try and maximise that position after that nightmare race 1. But Luff is the man at the front for Brytech, the Fujitsu Ford. Lee Holdsworth, well placed.
Jason Bargwanna just made a move in the WPS Ford as well at turn 5 and made it a clean move, got through. Luff, Johnson, Murphy, Holdsworth, Bright, Ellery, Brad Jones, Bargwanna, Andrew Jones, John Bow. That's the 10.
This lap is a 48 lapper, and the pit window is between laps 5 and 33 for that compulsory stop for tyres. As Bargwanna putting the pressure on Ellery.
For those that just had a question mark pop up in their minds, yes, Steve Ellery's driving for Paul Morris Motorsport this weekend. Remember, it was announced earlier in the year that he'd be joining Paul at Sandown and Bathurst in the Enduros. So this round in Darwin and the subsequent round at Queensland Raceway are a valuable hit out for him to get him back into match practice.
Steve Johnson has suddenly gone into defensive mode. He's got Greg Murphy all over him, who's been struggling with rear-end grip this weekend. He said there's nothing left in the truck. We've used every spare, we've used every thought, trying to get this car to stick to the road, and it's just not working.
Greg looks like he might have a little bit of pace here at the moment. He was battling, obviously, on Friday and then subsequently yesterday.
And Jason Bright has been able to get around Lee Holdsworth, and now he joins this scrap as well. There's Bright in the Cat Ford. He's got plenty of pace this weekend. And if you haven't caught up with the headlines in the 1 month break since Winton, he will be heading to his own V8 Supercar team next year. No longer with FPR in 07, it'll be Brytech for Jason Bright.
10.9 on that lap for Warren Luff. He's got a 1.3 second margin over Stephen. And then in come a bunch of cars as the compulsory pit stop window opens. The majority yesterday electing to change rear tyres only. We did see Todd Kelly change the loaded side, that is the right side of the car. Winterbottom had moved up pretty substantially. Oh, trouble in the pit lane there. That was contact, I reckon, with Steve Owen.
Okay, guys.
And Winterbottom got out of it and allowed Owen to go ahead.
I'm betting that will be the subject of a pit lane penalty, or certainly an investigation. The car controller at FPR must have released Mark Winterbottom and straight into the path, or almost side by side of the Autobahn car. That will undoubtedly be looked at. I'm at the HSV dealer team garage at the moment. They're keeping a close eye on the pit garage next door, which is Dick Johnson Racing. They want a clear line in for their drivers, Rick Kelly and Garth Tander. They know when DJR are going to pit, and I guess they're saying at the moment that might be within the next 2 laps. They're hopeful of pitting outside the DJR team, so we'll keep an eye on Tander and Rick Kelly.
It was a pretty good stop from James Courtney. He actually stalled the car during the stop yesterday, so he'll be pleased to make a better run of it today. Bargwanna, Ellery dives for the inside as they come up on the back of Holdsworth. Luff has a 1.5 second lead over Stephen Johnson at the moment, while Murphy still sits third.
Incidentally, Rick Kelly and Mark Scaife, who are right up the back, have come up to 17th and 18th.
You can see these guys growing a little bit impatient with Lee Holdsworth. They're looking for an avenue through. And right here is where Bargwanna, car 10 for WPS Ford, he got tagged by Greg Murphy yesterday. I asked Murph this morning about that, and I said, did you think Bargwanna left the door open? And he said, yes, I did. And then he said, when I realised he didn't, it was my fault. I got on the brakes a little too hard and ended up just tagging him and turning him around. And that's what cost Greg Murphy a lot of positions and a drive-through penalty.
Lee Holdsworth currently, as we see on screen there, running in 5th position. Did a fantastic job in qualifying in the race yesterday, but he had a lot of problems with the rear right tyre going down on that car. They had a valve split. He lost a lot of fluid through the couplers during the race. Then they had an oil pump seize in that car, so they had an engine change overnight, and he's trying to have a great result here for his first visit to Hidden Valley as wheels now go out for Jason Bright.
Looked like a very efficient stop there for WPS. Serviced Jason Bargwanna, Win Cup in. And Darryl just said that Bright's team are laying up at FPR. Very disappointed yesterday to pierce that tyre. Clipped the tyre bundle, final turn, and grabbed the bolt head fixings that tie all those tyres together. Here comes Lowndes down the inside of Courtney.
Not quite close enough. It was a very slick stop for his teammate Jamie Whincup. The 888 boys serviced him very nicely, very efficiently. Now Lowndes had a similar race yesterday to this, where he was stuck behind a fellow Ford driver and could not make his way through. Now he makes an impression on Courtney, not quite. However, yesterday it was Mark Winterbottom that he fought with over the 3rd place. However, Lowndes is thinking championship, and he didn't do anything silly yesterday. And that's what his race engineer, Campbell Little, is saying now. Just be patient. Don't do anything silly. Work away at him.
Bright in and out. Again, a good stop. Scaife hasn't elected to stop at this stage. He's up to 11th. Rick Kelly's running with him. I reckon that strategy might work okay for Scaife. GT Garth Tander's in yesterday. A clutch problem. Saw the rear wheels turning during the stop, and that was why he qualified 3rd, dropped back to 5th as a race result. They burned some precious seconds in the pit lane.
His race engineer, Matt Nielsen, said to me this morning, can we just get away from a race meeting with nothing happening during pit stops? Please.
Courtney working on Bargwanna here, and Lowndes working on Courtney. Pressure building in this trio.
Meanwhile, at the front of this race, Warren Luff still leads the way by over 2 seconds now over Stephen Johnson and Greg Murphy. Then it's Holdsworth, Ellery and Andrew Jones. This is getting close between Courtney and Lowndes.
A little bit of information on Tander, Neil. I heard you mention his problem yesterday with that pit stop that really hurt him. The team was saying after they changed the valve spring in that engine overnight because he buzzed the engine, they also said they found some rubbish behind the slave cylinder on that car, and that's why the clutch wasn't completely disengaging the rear wheels.
Remember that 12 months ago, the Dick Johnson racing team enjoyed a good hit out at Hidden Valley with Glenn Seaton and Stephen Johnson. This weekend so far, Steve has had a problem with a bolt at the bottom of the shaft on the shock absorber on the left on the left side, I should say, of the front of his car. That put him out yesterday. He spent a bit of time in pit lane. Now his teammate, Will Davison, is in with what the team are describing as a problem with the front suspension clivers, so he's out as well.
Wow, look at this. Bargwanna having to sweep to the left very aggressively. And Courtney and Lowndes arrive on the scene as well. And I think that's Dean Canto that they've arrived on very quickly. No, it's Lee Holdsworth. And Courtney has won out there because it's given him a gap over Lowndes, so he can skip away a little bit here.
The orders: Luff, Steve Johnson, Ellery, Andrew Jones, John Bower, Russell Ingle. Oh, Lowndes again looking to move. Mark Scaife is 7th, Paul Morris 8th, Rick Kelly 9th, Jason Richards is 10th.
And that has allowed Paul Dumbrell and Mark Winterbottom and Stephen Richards all to come up on the back of Lowndes. This will be ultimately frustrating for the 888 man.
Got a batch of cars in, including Ingle. I think that's Mark Scaife in behind. Yes, it is. I thought they may have run him a little longer, but it would depend on who he was coming up onto the back of. Rears only for car 2, race winning yesterday.
Watch him.
Oh, he almost hit one of the guys.
I think he actually clobbered a wheel then at SBR. And if he did make contact with that wheel, that's probably a penalty.
Lowndes on the outside of Holdsworth here. You're on board with Lowndes. And the young Gary Rogers driver not yielding to the multi-time champion.
Just down here at the HRT garage, boys, and the word from the crew is that Mark didn't make contact according to them with that tyre. So he's stopped at the last minute there and prevented an incident. Hopefully it won't be the subject of a penalty. The other incident involving the 55 car and Mark Winterbottom has been looked at.
Calm it down and
Now, the other problem that Mark Scaife's got is he's on the radio talking about losing brake pedal pressure. So I think they're actually going to bring him in. He reckons it's got a leaking brake bleeder on a caliper, perhaps. It might be squeezing fluid out for some reason. But I think they're going to actually bring him in.
He's the
Rick
man
Kelly's
who
in.
finished second yesterday. Very strong drive from this young man. He is only 1 point out of the championship lead as of yesterday's first race.
go. Good stop.
He could be the new championship leader at the end of this race.
A little bit of information on Rick Kelly. I spoke to him before the start of the race. He said he was going to use this reverse grid race just to try and get that car to have a little more turn in and some bit better power down, because they're really going to go for the run in race 3.
Wow, did you see Tander ducking and diving there, trying to get around Stephen Richards?
Car number 5, Mark Winterbottom, is going to have to do a drive through for an unsafe release in pit lane. And there's Scaife in, as I suggested. So
Front for sure.
Scaife reckons it's definitely a leaking front bleed nipple on the brake calipers, is his suggestion to the crew. So they'll have to put it up, put the stubby jacks underneath it and have a look and try and seal that, find out what's going on.
Meanwhile, look at this angry pack here. Paul Dumbrell, Mark Winterbottom, Stephen Richards, Garth Tander, Jamie Whincup, Russell Ingall. Now this is well down in the order. This is in the high teens and low 20s because of the reverse grid. But they are all scrapping for weekend points. Kelly is in. This is top. Winterbottom's getting a drive through. He's in the lane now.
Some of those camera angles scare you, don't they? That just looked like there was going to be contact then between Garth Tander and Stephen Richards. There's the drive-through being served by Mark Winterbottom. Unsafe release from their pit box.
That'll hurt him.
So this is scrambling the pack a little bit. That was a great performance yesterday for Mark Winterbottom. Hurts him now.
Now Lowndes, who runs 16th, Bargwana 15th, and Courtney's been able to skip away. Meanwhile, up front, Steve Johnson leads this race over Stephen Ellery, Andrew Jones and Jason Richards.
Get a good run.
James has now broken away a little from Craig, from Craig after he was able to get past Jason Bargwana. That's the defending tyre bundle that you saw at the apex of turn 10 that nicked the Jason Bright tyre yesterday. There was some loose bodywork on Paul Radisish's car, I understand, as well.
From earlier, from right about here where he was turned around on the opening lap.
Luff's 9th, Jason Bright 10th, Greg Murphy behind them. Stephen Johnson, the leader, from Steve Ellery, Andrew Jones, 1, 2, 3, Jason Richards 4th. They've solved the problem with the HRT car.
I'm going to try and get an answer on whether they have solved this problem, Neil. I had a word to Richard Holway just a few moments ago. He said the pedal was going to the floor. When they brought this car into the HRT garage, the attention initially was focused on the left rear. They opened the bleed nipple on the brake caliper and they found fluid straight away. They could at that stage not find the leak. They looked at the front there at the reservoirs where they keep the brake fluid. I'm not sure if they found it just yet. We'll come back to you.
Yeah, so they've had a look at the master cylinders. They've checked the what's called the bleed nipples on each of the calipers. So Mark Scaife on the radio.
Compulsory pit window ends at lap 33, so there's still plenty of time left there. On board with Lowndes, he's working on Bargwana. This looks promising.
the two of them right at the braking limit at turn 1.
If you have just joined us, it's been an eventful race. Massive accident on the run to turn 1 on the opening lap that involved Max Wilson. The Brazilian was knocked out of the race. Todd Kelly's car was damaged. Now, while we were away, Craig Lowndes made pretty quick, efficient work of it, getting by WPS Ford driver Jason Barguana. And then he worked on Marcus Marshall and got by the Glenford's Ford man as well.
He's now battling with James Courtney. James is showing some good pace in this race. I think Mark Scaife's in the pit lane again. They're going to make a rear roll centre adjustment on that car to trim the handling, use it as something of a test session so that he's in better shape for race 3. He's already got 136 points to his name based on yesterday's race 1 result and where he sits at the moment. So quick adjustment.
Okay.
That's all it is.
Watch the traffic when you come out. You're going to come on the
Just
leader.
looking for better car balance.
So there are still guys in front of Craig Lowndes that need to pit for their compulsory. And Lowndes started 28th and he now runs 8th on the road. This has been a mighty impressive drive from Craig Lowndes.
It looked, guys, like it was 3 turns up on that rear roll centre for Mark Scaife. We've got Rob Starr with us. Just quickly, were you able to find the cause of this brake problem? What's happened with the Scaife car?
Yeah, we're pretty sure it was just a leaking hose that fitting and somehow managed to come loose where, a mistake or just got knocked. And obviously now we're a few laps down, so we're just trying to get the best balance we can for the last race. So, a few tweaks here and there, and hopefully we can find a quicker car for the last race.
Thanks, Rob.
On board with Russell Ingall. You look at Jamie Whincup. This is 14th and 15th. And that's Steve Ellery. Going a little too deep into turn 1. It's got to take a while to find your way back into the car, doesn't it? I mean, he's been out for 6 months.
Yeah, but he's been doing regular testing with Paul and he's been on the pace. But it is a little bit different testing versus racing, so you need to just come to terms with the way in which the car behaves through the course of the race. Obviously, they lose a lot of grip through the duration of the race, and you've got to try and coax yourself to stay right up at the edge of the tyre performance, even though it's going away from you. I mean, you look at the times they're doing now, we're seeing 11s, some people are even in the 12s. Nothing like the kind of pace that you run here in practice or qualifying. You've still got to learn to get the most out of the car in that condition. And that's probably been one of the tricks, for example, for James Courtney. 7th at the moment in front of Lowndes, lapping at a very similar lap speed to Lowndes. But it's just understanding the nuances of these 1.5-ton race cars. Very heavy, not a lot of grip, not a lot of aero. And they take a little bit of understanding how to run over the journey of, in this case, 48 laps, not just 1 lap.
Look at this train of talent. Awesome stuff in the middle of this field with the 2 Jack Daniels Racing Commodores, with Dumbrell, Richards, then you've got Whincup and Ingall. There's an interesting story there actually with Jamie Whincup. He was telling me this morning that yesterday on that last lap, last corner, we all thought that Ingall made a bit of a mistake. He said in fact it was Dumbrell that made an error.
Yes.
That caused Ingall to falter. And then so that gave him the run. And he said, this will be interesting. There's a drag race between Ingall and I. We've both got the same power plants. And he said, I won.
Well, he got on the throttle early.
Yeah.
See, when we saw it yesterday, we saw that Russell had to fan the throttle. We made mention of that, and he just had to back off and prop because of what happened in front. And when the other party, in this case Jamie, gets to 100% throttle earlier, he's clearly going to get to the checkered flag faster.
He said in that drag race, though, it reached a point where they both kind of were at the same, and he thought nothing was going to happen. They were going to go across the line. He said at the last moment, he just got an extra little bit. It was enough to get him across the line.
It was very exciting for us, no question about that. Oh, no, that's not what Larry Perkins wants to see.
Teammates, Stephen Richards nudges Dumbrell out of the way. And that allows Whincup through as well.
Bit of news emanating from Jack Daniels Racing in the past week. They'll field the youngest duo at Sandown and Bathurst ever in the history of the Super Cheap Auto 1000 with Shane Price and Jack Perkins. Here's the replay again from on board with Stephen. Zinger replay. He slices up the inside. Fortunately, Paul either makes the decision to just give him a little bit of room, or even if he wasn't doing it, then he was forced to do it. And the order is reshuffled there.
Almost at the halfway mark of this race, it's Stephen Johnson, Warren Luff, Jason Bright, Greg Murphy and James Courtney, the top 5.
To see Stephen was that Paul had to have another dab of the brake pedal there right in the middle of the corner just to correct too much understeer. The car was just drifting away from the middle of the corner, and Paul had to just nudge the brake ever so slightly. And what that does, apart from taking a whisker of speed out of the car, it just returns a little bit of load to the front tyre, try and get the car back online. He did it again in the middle of turn 5 at the hairpin there, so he might just be battling a little bit of an imbalance in the car. So he'd understeered through turn 6, so he hasn't quite got the car balance he needs to be racing these guys comfortably at the moment.
For those of you who are regular runners, Paul Dumbrell, Cam McConville, Jack Perkins, as Neil just mentioned, who'll be competing at Sandown and Bathurst, and Jason Richards all just completed a half marathon recently in Melbourne, the run to the G Half Marathon. Dumbrell did the best out of the 4 V8 drivers. He ran it in 1 hour, 31 minutes. He actually finished 26th in his age group, which was the 18 to 29 age group. So well done, Paul Dumbrell.
It's interesting. Shot there from Russell's car. It looked like he was getting the benefit of the toe, started to position so that he could have done something, and then when they got to the point of applying the brake pedal, he didn't quite have the braking performance of Jack Daniels' car, so we couldn't do much. Now Lowndes has caught James Courtney. This little battle's been raging for a while. Craig's got about a tenth to a tenth and a half per lap on him at the moment. This is an important test for James. It hasn't been a fabulous start for the season for him. Back in the new car that was unfortunately damaged at the Clipsal 500 earlier this year. They used up 2 of their test days just recently. James' second day, the rookie day, wet weather conditions, so he got some valuable wet running time in the car as well. Now Craig will get the benefit of the big hole being punched in the air by James' car. He moves to the left, covers.
Neil, just while we're keeping an eye on the Stone Brothers Falcon there of James Courtney, a quick update on former Stones driver and dual series champion Marcus Ambrose. He's finished 3rd overnight in Kansas after qualifying 4th for the latest round of the NASCAR Truck Series. He's absolutely over the moon. He's been on the phone to a number of the journalists here this morning. He's now qualified in the top 10 4 times in 9 races. It's the best finish by any rookie this year so far in the Truck Series, the highest finish by any Wood Brothers Racing driver in the 3 NASCAR Series. And a final one for you. Marcus has, get this, unbelievable, up to 8 trucks at his disposal. He likes this one the best, and not surprisingly, they're rushing it back to the Wood Brothers workshop to prep it for the 1.5-mile tri-oval race next weekend in Kentucky.
It was exciting to get that message through this morning on all of our phones that he'd done so well, and congratulations to him. If he can crack that market, that's going to be an unbelievable achievement.
I can tell you, after living there for many years, that will put him on the map.
Yeah.
Steve Johnson in and out, and comes back out, still within the top 10, ahead of Lowndes, who now gets Courtney. He's close enough into turn 1. Nice slick move. So with that stop from Steve Johnson, Warren Luff is back in the lead of this race, but all by just half a second over Jason Bright.
James just made some space for Craig down there under brakes that time. Another stop for Mark Scaife. They're rattling all 4 wheels and tyres on this time. Didn't catch the radio communique on that one.
It's his 3rd time into the pits, isn't it?
Yeah, but he's still
stop. That's right.
He's buried down the back of the field, as Robbie said before, and he's not going to make those laps up. So they fixed the brake problem, then they did a roll centre adjustment. Now they've done tyres on it. This looks a bit exciting.
And that's Paul Dumbrell coming into contact, rather Stephen Richards, my apologies, car 7 coming into contact with Lee Holdsworth.
I think he might end up in a spot of bother over that one. In the braking area at turn 4. Warren Luff continues to lead the motor race from Jason Bright, Greg Murphy, Stephen Johnson, Craig Lowndes. So Dick Johnson Racing, First Rock Home Loans Ford. They've got Stephen in and out. Good shape, as we saw.
To indicate how costly that unsafe release and then the subsequent drive-through penalty for Mark Winterbottom was, Winterbottom held Lowndes out for 3rd place yesterday. Those 2 guys were right near each other on the starting grid at the back of the pack today. Lowndes runs 5th. Winterbottom is buried in this pack in 24th position. That shows you 23rd. He's made up a spot. That shows you how your weekend can turn around with a simple drive-through penalty.
And remember that this race 2 has a 50% points weighting value. So relative to yesterday's race, pretty easy to do it. Maybe 3 or even 4 locations around this track. You see the car leap off the pit lane speed limiter where it's cruising along at 40 k's and then whack, they rip into it. These cars 0 to 100 kilometres an hour very quickly. Good start in one from a standing start. Will be in the 3-something second range. Here's the drive-through penalty that we suspected for Stephen Richards. The Zinger replay shows him cruising down the lane. He made contact at turn 4 with Lee Holdsworth in the Valvoline car, and then Paul Dumbrell locked a brake under pressure from Russell Ingall at turn 1. That was as Stephen Richards was departing the lane, so within the space of a very short time frame, things not going well for Jack Daniels Racing. And now Jason Bright making the move that we expected on Warren Luff, but it did take a long time. That's Jason putting a move on a car that he owns and down the inside to now lead the race by 1 second over Warren Luff. Greg Murphy's in 3rd place, and we're on board now with Craig Lowndes chasing Stephen Johnson. 4th and 5th is this battle.
Keep in mind, Lowndes started 28th. So this is really a back of the grid to the front drive.
At
Fantastic effort.
Sorry, Lee. At the time that Jason Bright put that move on Warren Luff down there, I was standing there about 7 garages down from FPR, and Phil Keat, who's Bright's engineer, was down on the pit wall down there as well, and all of a sudden Bright went past him on the circuit, and Brad Jones did flat spot that front left-hand tyre.
Some more news for you from the HRT camp on that last pit stop from Mark Scaife. There was a flat spot on a left front tyre. They only changed front tyres for Scaife. So obviously, as he's hustling to try and get better grid position for the 3rd and final race, maybe a little mistake's crept in.
Little mistake there also for Stephen Johnson at a critical moment, turning into turn 5. His dad watches.
And it's timely we congratulate Dick. He won the, and DJR won the June Gold Coast Business Excellence Award in Tourism, Hospitality and the Recreation category. Went to the Griffith University campus to receive that. Congratulations, Dick, and I believe he's in line for another award later in the year.
Well, this is what the starting order will look like for race 3 based on their current track position. Obviously that can change between now and the end of the motor race. Mark Scaife 9th there, and that sort of further substantiates why you'd use this race now as something of a test session. Incidentally, there's a management meeting at the end of next week in Queensland at V8 Supercar Australia headquarters. All of the key constituencies representing the management of the category, teams and what have you, will all sit down and discuss the first part of the season, the notion of reverse grids and a myriad of other issues that are on the table.
Yes, it's called their planning meeting, isn't it? It'll be interesting to hear some of the outcomes of that.
Russell Ingall putting a move here on Jason Bargwanna. Barg's leaving plenty of space down the inside, and Russell sneaking by. He's 9th at the moment.
So this reverse grid race has gone very well for a number of people, including Craig Lowndes and Russell Ingall, because Ingall is now into a higher position than where he finished yesterday after starting 13th.
And he's really had a tough week. When he went to Alice Springs for a Ford promotion earlier in the week, had a real nasty chest infection. When he got here, that turned into a stomach bug. And I saw him on Friday. He looked ghastly. But yesterday, it turned around for him. He was a little bit unfortunate in that whole stoush in the last couple of laps. It was very exciting for us. But he got valuable points, put himself in a good position for this race and further improved the car overnight.
Jamie Whincup told me that he was with him and he said he ordered prawns for dinner in Alice Springs. He said, what does he expect ordering prawns in Alice Springs?
Long way to walk if you're a prawn, isn't it?
So the battle goes on here. Johnson in 4, Lowndes in 5. It's Bright, Luff and Murphy in the top 3.
This is a good battle, this one, between Stephen Johnson and Craig Lowndes. These two get on very well. They spend a lot of time together. And it's the first man to blink at the moment. Again, you note the differences of the various race lines between the drivers and the way that their cars work and the way they choose to drive the circuit. Another little battle here for 6th and 7th between James Courtney and Garth Tander. Tander, incidentally, is the current points leader by a solitary point in the championship over his teammate Rick Kelly. Now Tander is running 7th at the moment. Rick Kelly is back in 11th.
here he is, chasing down Jason Bargwanna. Very refreshing to see the WPS Fords having a solid run, and it's been one step at a time for them this year in the hands of Mark Larkham. Craig Gore has very much stepped back from being within the race team on a weekend-to-weekend basis, and he's let Larko go at it and do what he does best at running a race team, and it's working quite nicely. Inside run for Rick, and Kelly makes it stick.
Up to 10th now. This will be hot, hard work for the guys out there at the moment. A little bit of cloud cover will be a welcome relief, but make no mistake, it's roaring hot in these cars, up around 60 degrees inside the cockpit. Everybody using their ventilation systems, their cool suits and everything they can get to deal with the choking temperatures. A real culture shock when you've been in the southern states at this time of the year in your test program, where the big issue is always getting warmth into tyres. Another adjustment for Mark Scaife's car. He's been on the radio talking about it, trying to make sure the car's correctly trimmed for race 3. And that board that Rob's holding there, guiding Mark into position. 40 k's, looks like the car's just crawling along, doesn't it? And he's going into the garage.
Well, the weekend has just gone so well up until now for Mark Scaife. He was fastest in Friday's practice session. He was fastest in qualifying as Lowndes edges ever so close to Stephen Johnson. He just missed pole position in the top 10 shootout. Won race 1, but it's all gone sideways in 2 for Scaife.
Lee, that onboard shot, sorry boys, on Craig Lowndes' car tells a story. You could see some fluid on the windshield. I've just been into 888 and had a word to Campbell Little, who engineers Lowndes' car. He said it's from James Courtney's Falcon. So I walked directly next door, and Ross Stone tells me no problems for the Courtney car. Currently engine temperature 92 degrees, and there's no other dramas as far as the vital signs are concerned at Stone Brothers.
Not uncommon to get a lot of rubbish on the windscreen, but that is a substantial amount. The worst thing you can do then is engage the wiper, and all it does is smear. That's a real issue when you do the enduro races, and that's the reason why they put a bit of time and effort in taking an extra second sometimes to just clean at least the portion of the screen that the driver directly looks through. Campbell Little just giving Craig countdown in terms of laps to run. Remember, Craig did the enormous motorcycle ride, over 4,000 clicks to come up here. Jamie Whincup had a little dabble as well. A couple of other team members, including engineering director Ludo Lacroix, joined them. Some other bike enthusiasts. There was heaps of fun. Craig had a grin from ear to ear. Here's Courtney. We can't see anything obvious on the Geldwen car. He's currently 6th behind Craig Lowndes. On that particular lap was a little bit quicker than Craig Lowndes. Oh, Greg Murphy off the road at turn 4.
Was in 3rd place. And here comes Courtney. So he's lost 2 spots to Johnson and Lowndes, and now he's into the clutches of Courtney. This is what happened. He's attempting a move on Luff with the Zinger replay.
He was on the inside where the track's dirty. There's not as much grip there, and he just slid off the road. No real big deal. Better than making contact. If he made contact, he'd probably cop a penalty. I can hear in my ears as well the radio calls from HRT. They're doing a brake bleed on that car to try and get the brakes sorted out. So whatever the gremlin is, it might still be in there.
Stephen Johnson and Craig Lowndes have a shot at getting Warren Luff here. There's plenty of time.
There we go. They're just cracking open the bleed nipple on the caliper. They run the fluid in there to get the air out of the system. That's excessive brake fluid that goes into the bottle, and they command Mark to pressure the pedal and then release it on cue. Drivers need the cars to be balanced very accurately through a couple of critical parts of this track, and that car really is sliding badly in the rear for Greg as he came off that long right-hander. They're continuing to bleed the brakes on the HRT car in the pit, so they're cycling a lot of fluid through it. So Mark's still stationary in there as we go back to this great battle between Craig Lowndes and Stephen Johnson. There they are, HRT crew. David Svensson there, the engineer that works with Mark. And I think they've now cycled enough fluid through that they probably feel that they've got the bubbles out.
There's quite a deal of patience being employed here by Lowndes. Is this the one? No.
Stephen's driving absolutely on the race line, and Craig always likes to turn in early, carries speed from turn into apex, and so it looks like a big hole, but it disappears because Steve's committed to turning into his own apex. You've got to be very careful in those circumstances. Craig's probably a whisker quicker, but not enough to be able to actually get the move done cleanly. What he doesn't want to do when he's got 174 points against his name and starts therefore from pole in race 3 is get this wrong and tweak the car, cop a penalty, whatever.
Turn himself around, turn someone else around.
That's why Roland Day and Campbell Little watching this one, biting their nails, giving him information. There's the current situation. This point score reflects what the starting order will be for race 3.
There's some positive signs a couple of positions back for James Courtney. As Neil mentioned earlier, this is the first time that he's raced in the car that he started the year in. There he is. And he's been running on the same pace. He's been able to hold Garth Tander out for many laps now. And we know how fast those Toll HSV Commodores are. So that's a promising sign for Courtney. But Tander may be growing impatient by the look of that.
The car just looks to be sliding a little bit here and there. He's just losing a tiny bit in this middle sector. You can see that Garth just looks a bit stronger, although the last lap time for both of them was a 12.3. There really is the walking wounded at the back end of this race. 41 ticked off out of a 48 lap race, so they're skating around, all of them at the moment. As we continue to go through that current point scenario that details precisely where everybody will be. Now that's as at now, not necessarily at the end of the race, because of course things can change.
7 laps, Craig, 7 laps.
Campbell Little, a little bit of counselling in all that, 7 laps, and the code there is be careful.
Just shadowing Stephen Johnson. The two Queensland-based Ford drivers.
Remember that Lowndes came off the back of a tremendous result, round winner, 302 points at Winton. Consistency delivers the cup in V8 supercar competition at the moment. You've got to finish the races, particularly this one, and you saw how hard that can be at the front of the race. Hard to negotiate the first lap or two when there's a lot of congestion, a lot of impatience. Often for many drivers it's the only opportunity you really get to put a good move together and make it stick, but it's also at a much higher risk point of the race.
Neil, just to embellish the story a little bit more on that quite lengthy brake bleed for car 2 for Mark Scaife, I've just had another word to Rob Starr. They did the brake bleed side to side. On the passenger side, it was done relatively quickly, but on the driver's side, they spent a lot more time and put a lot more fluid through that side of the car. The attention largely focused toward the rear, and I do believe they found a couple of pockets of air.
Yeah, even the tiniest air bubble results in a spongy pedal. Nothing worse at a place like this where you command a lot of your brakes, particularly there into turn 1 where we saw Jason Bright a moment ago. You really lean on the brake pedal down there with a massive amount of pedal pressure. Air in the system gives you a spongy pedal. You don't get the retardation you need, and it's also bad for driver confidence. 3.1 seconds is the margin. Jason Bright to Warren Luff. Stephen Johnson remains third, pressured by Craig Lowndes. Here they are. Then James Courtney, Greg Murphy between Lowndes and Courtney. Then Tander, Whincup, Ingle, whoop. And Courtney under pressure at the moment from Tander. Big pressure.
It's definitely only a matter of time before Garth makes a bigger move than that on the 4 Geldwen Falcon.
Gives him a little tap here down at turn 1. Garth's got 164 points to his name at the moment. James has got 122, so I hope that Matty Nilsson is communicating the message that you don't need to take too many risks here, because in reality he's in a much better position than James. See the rear bumper on the back of the Ford, looks a bit second hand now.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, there's Matty's just gone, you're currently third for the round, so again that's code for be careful.
Yeah, he's currently sitting on the second row for race 3, and Courtney makes an error, and he makes it easy for Tander. Just a slight bobble under brakes into turn 1.
Doesn't have the braking performance for some reason, the SBR car, and that was particularly evident with Russell Ingall's car when you saw him battling earlier with the Jack Daniels, I think it was Paul Dumbrell car. Yeah, he had the benefit of the draft, and he got down to turn 1 and he just didn't brake as deeply as you might expect. Basically James has out-braked himself there, pinched the rear brakes, it's unsettled in the rear and it runs him wide. He gets a lot of debris on the tyres and it makes it really easy for Garth Tander.
And that allowed one of the quiet achievers in this race. There he goes right there in the second Better Electrical Ford, Jamie Whincup, who started 23rd. will get an 8th place finish if he stays where he is right now. That is a solid run. Meanwhile, life is easy for Jason Wright in the Cat Ford, 3.5 seconds. Last time round, he is running away with this one. And perhaps he could have run away with the round if it weren't for that tyre blowout yesterday. Good look back through the field. Tander's been released now. Clear air ahead. Let's see if he can make any ground on Greg Murphy in 5th place, and Russell Engel running in a lonely 9th.
Whincup speedy as well as Tander. They're both in the low 12s.
Whincup told me earlier today that his car yesterday was brilliant. The longer the race went, the better his car got. And I imagine that is a very good feeling.
Yeah.
Because usually it's the other way around.
Right about that. They started with more fuel on board, obviously, for the 140k race today. Around about 80 kilos of fuel. Most of that's burnt away now, but the tyre condition is pretty poorly by the time you get to the end of a long, hot run like this one. This will be the 13th race, not round, obviously, of the series, and Jason Bright on target to pick up a 2nd win now. Mark Scape's got 5 wins, Craig Lowndes 2, Jason Bright on target for a 2nd.
Speaking of 2nd, there he is, Warren Luff. 3rd is car 17, Stephen Johnson. 4th is Craig Lowndes.
Todd Kelly's also complaining of brake issues with his car, so I think there might be a little epidemic there at HRT for some reason that needs some attention. Problems for Dumbrell, looks like an engine fault. Pulls off the side of the road, smoke pouring from the left side of the car.
And Warren Luff, has he run wide? Has he made a mistake? Yes, he has. Oh, wow, that gives Murphy a chance. So that has allowed Johnson and Lowndes to go through to 2nd and 3rd, and the pressure is really on Luff now. That is where Greg Murphy made his error earlier, attempting a pass on the same driver. Up into turn 5, the hairpin.
Look ahead, because that battle between Johnson and Lowndes has continued. That's the Dumbrell car not looking well there. That's pretty serious engine damage, I'd suggest.
Could be a couple of good scraps unfold here on the closing laps, because right behind this car we sit in is Garth Tander, who has got great pace. Zinger replay of Warren Luff.
Gone wide at turn 1, so instantly Stephen Johnson, Craig Lowndes through. When Warren rejoined, he came straight back on there and was immediately pressured by Greg Murphy, and there is the massive hemorrhaging of the 5-litre V8 engine of Paul Dumbrell's, and he's immediately pulled off. It won't sound too well, and no doubt he's got some bad gauge indications on the dashboard as well.
Final 2 laps around this 2.9 kilometre Hidden Valley circuit.
It's a good job from Stephen Johnson, and we've seen Stephen like this before, really rock solid, not making mistakes under pressure, pretty good car speed, good racer, making the most of it, not being flustered. He's got the 888 better electrical car ducking and diving all around. It's easy to be distracted in the mirrors. Made a couple of little braking errors up at the turn 5 hairpin earlier in the race, but he's spot on line there. 2nd, so this is a great... Oh, trouble!
That's Tander, Murphy and Luff. And that's exactly what you were talking about earlier, Neil. No need to do anything crazy when you're in a strong position. I'd be keen to see the replay to see what happened here.
That bonnet damage was there earlier, I noted, so I don't think it's from whatever just happened then. But look at this little brawl. 2nd to 3rd to 4th to 5th.
Last lap
to 6th. Right at the start-finish line for Craig Lowndes. Benefit of the draft. Can he make it stick down the inside? No, Stephen, very strong under brakes.
They talk about the hot, hard conditions up here. Stephen Johnson said, yeah, I can handle it. I'm a born and bred Queenslander. This is what I grew up in. I can handle the hot conditions.
Now, what happened here?
Tander's tried to go around the outside.
Oh, dear.
And contact there. Greg Murphy had the inside line.
But he was also locked up. That's a strange one. So, there's the view from Greg's car. So, Garth tried to make the optimistic move around the outside, looking for track position, of course, at turn 6. But in trying to race him up there, Greg took his car in even deeper than he probably naturally wanted to go, locked the brakes. That made contact between the two of them.
First win for Jason Bright at Hidden Valley in 4 years. The Cat Ford man has done it again. Bright wins the reverse grid race, and that's his second race victory of the year. Johnson holds on for a very solid second, and Lowndes in for third, but Lowndes will be the man going into race 3. James Courtney, a good result. Warren Luff comes in for fourth. And that's Barry Hay saying to Russell Ingall, good result, P7, considering the dramas you had on the opening lap.
Question mark about the correct stop.
Couldn't hear what Russell said then.
Question mark about something, but it didn't pick it up either. So a bit of a benefit there for a couple of them when Tander and Murphy got together. That gave Jamie Whincup a bonus.
And there's a nice reward for Jason Bright after seeing what could have been a race victory yesterday slip away. Plenty of applause, and there's some FPR fans up in the crowd. The Ford performance man has done it. His teammate copped a drive-through penalty. That took him out of a solid points position, but Bright has done it nonetheless, and he's pretty pleased about that. Oh my goodness
me.
What is that all about?
That's a very bizarre thing. There's no doubt going to be an investigation after the race as to what that's all about. You rarely see a marshal out on the track, certainly in the green flag scenario, and crossing the track. I mean, that could be tragic.
Wasn't built for speed either. He was built for comfort. VB scoreboard shows us, look at that, a Ford-dominated race. The first man in red was Garth Tander, down in 8th place ahead of Greg Murphy, and Rick Kelly coming in for a top 10. When we come back, we will hear from our guys who finished at the top of the order.
Well, the number 4, Gelwin Falcon, was one of the first to pit in race 2 there, and you feel, James Courtney, that may have actually, at the end of the day, hurt your rear tyres.
Yeah, maybe a little bit towards the end of the race. We wanted to pit early and try and pass as many guys as we could in the pits, and it worked quite well, but just at the end of the race we didn't have much to play with, so locked the rears, and that's when Tander and Jamie got past. So.
I wandered into the 888 garage at one stage because Craig Lowndes had some oil on the windscreen and he felt it was coming from your car. Were there any problems at all?
No, we didn't have any warning lights or anything, so the engine was running pretty good. We're running the new D3 engine this weekend, and it's going not too bad.
It's a good haul in terms of the way you've moved up the order, and it puts you in a reasonable place heading into the final race here at Hidden Valley.
Yeah, it should be good. We're around 10th, so it's coming from 21st on the grid yesterday. It's quite a good result, so looking forward to it.
Now, quick one, you want to say good day to your sister. She's something special overnight.
Yeah, congratulations to Lynn. My sister had a baby, so congratulations.
Daz?
Well, Steve Johnson, you have to say after that's a little more to the form you had here last year.
Yeah, it is, Daz. I mean, really unfortunate thing with that shock absorber breaking yesterday. We really stumped on why there's no curbs around here to hit and make it, to make it break. So always makes it easier when you're starting from the front, of course. But Bridie was there, and we seemed to be, not far away from him. Craig had a great run. He had more pace than me at the end. I was just blocking so he couldn't get past.
He was second position in that race too, looking to race 3 now. Obviously some confidence there, but great battle with Craig. Like you said, he was touching you on the straight.
Yeah, mate, I'll race with Craig anytime, anywhere. He's an awesome driver, and he's very, very fair. And I can't remember the last time that we both had a drama together. We've had a few rubs and a few bumps, and it's always been clean racing, and it's great. But like I said, he had more pace at the end. But I don't know where we're going to end up starting in the next one, but we used all our old tyres in, so we've got a brand new set for the last race, which is really promising.
Well, that's nice. You've got green tyres for race 3.
It is, mate. Thank you.